Hi there. We're going to look today at two separate moves that you just saw there in a little example that I think can be well related together in terms of the way that they work and the way that you can go about learning them. They can even serve a similar function depending on how you use them, as we did here in this example. What I'm going to teach you a simple, what I consider to be simple methods for doing a double lift and also for doing a second deal. Because in a sense, these two moves are quite related, that you're dealing with the second card from the top of the deck in both of those situations. And in both of those situations, you're passing off the second card from the top as if it were the card from the top. Now, before I do that, I want to have a quick discussion, though, about why I would bother to look at these things, particularly lately, some of these more advanced, or what are perceived as much more advanced sleights. In a previous video, we looked at the various kind of common passes or shifts that you can do with a deck of cards, that is, to transpose the top of the deck with the bottom of the deck in an undetected manner, or to nullify a cut. And that's often considered to be an extremely advanced move, and you know, you shouldn't do it. A lot of people say you shouldn't do this until it's really, really undetectable and that you can do it well. And I kind of dispute that a little bit, that if you're properly using misdirection, things don't have to be absolutely beyond perfect, and that someone can be burning the deck with their eyes. If all of your magic is going to depend on that, you'll be a great magician, no doubt about it. But you'll also be obsessed, I think, with a hobby. And that's not what this channel is about. This channel is about the hobby. This channel is about common people who do this a little bit, and trying to get people who do this a little bit to use certain moves and methods in common practice in their magic, and to entertain people and to help people enjoy a good time in a social setting with tricks. And that's my concern. Now, I do want to address a couple of criticisms from the last video that I got. And I'm going to address the criticisms not really by pushing back, but by acknowledging the truth in the criticism, but also saying that it doesn't really matter. So here's the criticism, is that if you can get better at something, and you can make it look cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, then why shouldn't you do that? And my answer to that is, I am not saying that you shouldn't do that. I definitely agree that if you can get rid of every single little nuanced tell that a magician would recognize in a particular move, then you should do that. If you can fool magicians, all the better, because that means your audience is much bigger than just kind of, common people that don't know the ins of this stuff. I don't know that fooling magicians is a worthwhile endeavor. If you're being selective about who you're performing for, and in a sense, a good magician is selective about who they perform for. You could watch somebody perform an illusion with perfect technique silently, and you could watch somebody else perform the exact same illusion using the exact same techniques. However, maybe those techniques are considerably more rough around the edges in their execution, but using a pattern and a misdirection and an offsetting of time to get away with the same trick. And it is highly likely, first of all, that people would not know the difference between the two, especially if they are effective. But it's highly likely that people will favor the second, the less polished version of it. That will probably seem more magical to them because of the human interaction that's going on. So let's not make our hobby, and I know that might be offensive to people that do this professionally, I don't. That's why I use that word, because for me this is a hobby. This is not a profession for me. This is not something I spend hours on. I spend hours on other things that are my profession because I have to be extremely proficient at those things. I don't have to be proficient at this. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do this and entertain people and help people to feel good in social settings. But, to me, human interaction is really what this is all about. And even to the professional, I would encourage you to think in that way too, if that's not how you think. So anyway, that's my little rant. So let's look at the double lift, and let's look at the second deal in a common magician kind of setting here, in such a way that they might be able to be used in some of your tricks. So the first move we're going to look at is the double lift. I'll be honest with you, I don't find a lot of reasons to use double lifts. I don't use them very much. I usually will find other ways to substitute cards. If you look on my channel, I have an example of the ambitious card routine that has about 4 phases in it. And contrary to the understanding of that particular routine, it does not use any double lifts. The ambitious card routine is a notorious trick in that the notoriety in it is that you have to do double lifts in order to do it. In fact, I performed an ambitious card routine once for a young person who was into magic, a little bit into card magic. And in the first phase, he said, "Double lift." And I immediately blew his mind by using a different method, and demonstrated that wasn't what was going on there, that defied his understanding of it by letting him handle the card that we're dealing with. So you don't have to use double lifts all the time, so I don't. I tend to find other ways to do it that are a little bit more accessible to me. It's a bit higher risk. That being said, there's no reason why you can't do it. If you find that an illusion that you're doing has to require one, I just posted a small packet kind of demonstration on my channel here that uses 4 double lifts. So I can do it. I will do it if I have to, but I try not to. So we'll just put it at that. Now, very quickly, the classic double lift, which is not the one that I'm teaching you here, but just to make you aware. If you're learning the classic double lift, there's 2 parts to it. There's a get ready, and then there's the turnover. We're going to try to condense this down to 1, but very quickly, if you're doing the classic one, that usually involves holding the deck in dealing grip and then also overhand a biddle grip with the other hand, beveling the deck backwards so that you have this backward angle, and then using the thumb to get ready by lifting up and scraping along the back edge of at least 2 cards to create a pinky break. So I've done my get ready to assign a pinky break down here that is unseen by the spectator, so that I can then turn over both cards by reaching in at my break, usually with the second finger, pinching in the center, pulling down, and then just releasing to let them turn over. Now, if I leave myself a margin in the back, and normally you want it to be a little bit more square than that, I don't need to do much in terms of a get ready, because as I push forward, I can just lift up on those 2 cards to get my pinky break again, and I'm prepared to do the reverse. So I can double lift in using 2 phases, a get ready and a turn. The one we're going to look at here, and by the way, I'm aware that there's ways to pinky count and all these other ways to get that break. I don't care. That's not our concern. We're going to look at a single phase double lift that I think is easier than the classic one. And it works something like this, and this is the relationship with a second deal. We're going to thumb off more than 1 card, and it doesn't even have to be very, very clean. It can be fairly broad and open. So if I'm going to exaggerate this for a moment, I'll just show you how open you can be with it, with a little bit of cover. I'm going to thumb off 1 card, and once I get to a certain point, the pad of my thumb here is going to make contact with the second card. And now I've got 2 cards out, and I can even go further to a 3rd card or 4th card if I want to. But the key is that I'm going to reach over with my free hand, my dealing hand, and with my second finger, I'm going to make contact with the corner of the second card. This is how I was taught to do it. I'm going to reach up, make contact with the second card in the corner. I'm going to draw it back and square it up into the palm of my hand. And then what I'll do is I'll reach out, and with my fingers I can hold it squarely and rotate it around on the palm of my hand and then bring it forward. Okay, and I can do this fairly sloppily. I don't have to be very clean about it. Let me show you that again. Now this is from top view, so you can see what's going on very slowly. I will reach out and thumb off 2 cards. I'll reach up with my second finger, grab the second card, bring it forward, and turn them both over. To turn them back, again, I'm holding it squarely in these fingers. I just do the same kind of release as I would with a classic one, and I turn them back over. I'm now free to substitute in my top card for the second card and retaining the card of interest there. Now, one piece of information that helps this work well when you're not quick and ninja-like with it, which you don't have to be. Just give yourself forward cover. If you lift the cards, and actually if you're in more of a dealing situation at a table or standing with someone, they're going to be more at this angle than you are right now looking down. You would just want to tilt so that you give forward cover so that when you thumb out multiple cards, that bit of information is less detectable from that point of view. And you'll see in my demonstration that I do that. I give more forward cover. Then I can reach out, grab the second card, give it a turn, show my second card as the top, turn it back. That wasn't very smooth, but you understand. And then I can substitute in my top card for my second. Okay, so again, if I do this a little bit more fluidly without all the talking, but with that forward cover, I can be fairly open about what I'm doing and in my turn. So it's not evident that I'm substituting in a top card on top of my second card. So again, what I'm doing here is very open. If you see, I'm thumbing forward that far. I'm not even trying to hide that margin. With that forward cover, it's very undetectable, especially as you cross over and give this cover of the hand to grab it. So a double lift does not have to be inaccessible. It can be a fairly open kind of maneuver if you're doing it in this way that gets rid of the get ready. Now, one piece of advice is that if I'm going to be turning over cards in contexts like this, if I'm doing my doubles like that, then when I lift a single, I should do it a very similar way. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm turning the cards over in context around the time that I do the double in the same way. I don't want to reach forward and show a double and then a moment later lift and show a single that way. I want to be doing it in the same way. So that is a double lift, the most accessible way I know how to do it, the easiest way, and in a sense probably the most stealthy way to do it compared to the more classic version. So the second deal in relationship to the double lift will involve a very similar kind of approach. There's not 2 motions to this. There's 1 motion. There's not a get ready, but rather there is a preparation and a deal that all happens in the same motion. It's all one thing. So this is typically done one of 3 ways. The most popular way is what's called a strike second, and that's not what we're going to be looking at. But most professionals will use a strike second. It is probably the cleanest way to do it and gives you the widest viewability. You don't have to cover too many angles if you're really good at a strike. Now the strike works like this, that you would push off 1 card and then you would strike, that's why it's called a strike, with your thumb the second card in the margin. The smallest margin you can do it in, the better. But you would strike with your thumb and then you would peel off the second card. Okay, so that is a strike second. We're not going to do that. You can practice that and get good at that and be like Ricky Jay. Awesome, okay, but we're not doing that. The second version of this is a little bit more sloppy, but it's also very good. You can bevel off multiple cards to the right if you're a right-handed dealer. Bevel off quite a few cards and reach up underneath and grab the second card. So you're actually striking from the bottom, the second card, and very slowly and fluidly taking out the second card and laying it down. Now this requires a lot of forward cover, so you want to cover your angles up considerably in order to do that, meaning that you want people looking more at the front edge of the deck, almost towards the bottom of it, so that when you reach up, they're not seeing this deep beveling going on, but you can take off the second card and then drop it. The third version, which is the one that we're looking at, which is a little bit kind of between the two, is a kind in which we're going to extend our thumb up so that we have a little bit more of an extra pad sticking up in the front. And we're going to use our fingers down here. Now, I hold an Erdnase grip. I learned this in Expert of the Card Table, and I've decided that with the bottom deal that I do, which is the Erdnase bottom deal, that I was just going to hold Erdnase grip all the time. So even when I'm playing cards with somebody, if I'm just playing a card game of some kind, I'll deal legitimately just holding cards this way. I just do it all the time, which is a good point to make, that you want to be consistent in context. If I'm doing double lifts, by doing this, right, then I want to make sure that when I'm lifting a legitimate card, at least in and around the time that I do a double lift, in the context of that performance, that I'm legitimately lifting cards the same way. Okay, so context is everything here. So I hold it like this all the time. You might hold it more like this, more like the mechanics grip where the first finger is extended. You would use then your second finger and ring finger and pinky to govern the number of cards that are coming off. So you use the pad of your thumb extended to push off one card, and then you would grab automatically, it just happens, the next set of cards. At least the second card, you'd push out at least that far, and you've governed from the bottom with these fingers the number that are coming off, and you just reach over and you grab the corner of the second card rather than the first. Okay, so thumb and second finger for me, or ring or middle finger. It could be first finger, but I give more cover with a second finger because a first finger out here just kind of covers things up a little bit. And I grab the second card and then I take it out as I bring back the top one. Again, just like with the double lift that we talked about a moment ago, it's good if you give forward angle on the cards. You don't want to give too much top angle for a couple reasons. They'll see the discrepancy of the second card coming out because the top border doesn't move very much, and also they can see that you're grabbing onto the second from that point of view. So you want to give a little bit of forward cover, and again, you would push off using extended pad up here, push off the top a couple cards. It might even be more than that, might be 3, but you're going to reach over and you're going to grab the second one, and then you're going to take it out as you pull back the first card, and then you set it down. So that's the second deal. Now, a couple things about this. It doesn't have to be fast. You can actually practice this motion within a couple hours and be fairly reasonably good at doing a second deal. So in the context of doing a legitimate deal, I would want to slow down considerably my legitimate deal so that in the moment that I go to do a second, it feels the same way. Okay, context is everything. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to deal slowly. You can deal slowly if it warrants it. If you're dealing in a game, you can deal slowly. There's no reason why you can't do that. If you're dealing in a trick, especially if you're doing counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You have a reason built in to do it slowly. So you want to make sure that you have your verbal misdirections in place. But that's a second deal. That's essentially it, the easiest way to do it. In a moment here, we'll look at how I applied both of those to the exact same effect. And we'll see that they really kind of look the same if you're using them the way that I did. Okay, so very quickly, the way that these look the same. So the first one is the double lift. So we'll get ourselves a fresh card there. We're going to do our double lift just as I showed it to you. And again, you can do it very slowly, but you just reach out. You're going to push off 2 and then reach out and grab the second one. See, I have 2 cards there. Okay, so here's my double lift. Get a fresh card again. You do your double lift very, very slowly, smoothly. Give yourself some front cover. Turn it over. Show it. Turn it back over. And then what I did is I cut the deck. And then I took the top card off, which is not the double, it's the substitution, place it on, and then I squared up the deck. And then, of course, obviously my card is retained, my second card. Okay, so that's the double version of this. The second deal is the same thing, and we're just going to put the move in a different place in the demonstration. So I'm going to deal off legitimately the top card. I'm going to do it in the same way because that's the context of the trick that I've made. So I deal off the top card and show it legitimately. Then I'm going to cut the deck. And then whenever I go to deal my card down, I'm just merely going to deal the second card down the way that I demonstrated. And then I square it up. And of course, it's the same effect. So you can really substitute seconds with doubles or doubles with seconds depending on the routine that you're doing. You don't have to hold yourself to any one method. You can use whatever method you choose to get a substitution in there. That's really all that a second deal is, or a double lift. They're both substitutions. The purpose of them is to substitute an indifferent card for the card of focus. And you can use them interchangeably in a lot of different ways. So that's my quick coverage on the double lift and the second deal. I hope you find a use for this, and I wish you happy magicking.